Good evening. A Christmas parade packed with families has become a scene of senseless horror. An SUV speeding through a police line and slamming into crowds at full speed in Wisconsin. At least 5 people have been killed and more than 40 injured, many of them children.
In the middle of the marching band, a red Ford ploughs through the festivities, mowing down dozens. The songs replaced by screaming.
Oh my God!
A community parade marking the holiday season. Among the performers, dozens of young girls from a local dance team.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
From celebration to horror and confusion, parents and spectators rushing to help the injured, checking for signs of life. Waukesha's annual holiday parade had been underway for just half an hour when it came under attack by vehicle, captured on a Facebook live stream. Police firing at the car as it ploughed through barriers into the festive family event. Police recovered the car and arrested one suspect, the motive not yet clear. The FBI is involved and officials haven't ruled out terrorism.
Two hostages held in Haiti for more than a month, free tonight, according to the missionary group who organized the service trip. Christian Aid Ministries confirming the 2 individuals are safe, in good spirits, and being cared for. Their names, reasons for their release, and where they currently are still being kept secret for security purposes. The Ohio-based organization pleading for prayers and writing, "Our hearts are with the 15 people who are still being held." 16 U.S. citizens and 1 Canadian were abducted 36 days ago after visiting an orphanage outside Port-au-Prince. 6 men, 6 women, and 5 children, the youngest of which is 8 months old, all kidnapped at gunpoint by a notorious street gang known as 400 Mawozo.
Moving on, massive protests have erupted in Pakistan's port city of Gwadar against a shortage of basic necessities like water, electricity. Threats to livelihood from illegal fishing, unnecessary checkpoints. The protests are part of a growing backlash in the country against China's multi-billion-dollar Belt and Road projects. The protests have been organized by civil rights activists, fishermen, the residents of the Gwadar city, a coastal town in the southwest Balochistan province of Pakistan. They say the protests will continue till their demands have been met, which includes eviction of big fishing trawlers, opening of the border with Iran from Panjgur to Gwadar, and the protests are part of a growing discontent with China's presence here.
The Belgian capital, Brussels, was today the latest European city to see unrest over tightened coronavirus restrictions. Tens of thousands of people marched in protests, some threw fireworks at police officers who intervened with tear gas and water cannon. Belgium has just brought in new measures in the face of a sharp rise in infections. The protesters are mainly opposed to the use of COVID passes, which ban the unvaccinated from entering bars and restaurants. Protests have also taken place in Austria, Italy and Croatia. And in the Netherlands, there is now a 3rd night of unrest.
Another day of unrest, unsettling another European capital. This is Brussels tonight. What began as an organised peaceful march quickly turned nasty. Some protesters threw fireworks at police, others targeted their vehicles. Officers intervened with tear gas and water cannon.
A former driver from Rwanda will go on trial here in the French capital on Monday for his involvement in the 1994 Rwanda genocide. Claude Muhaimana is accused of complicity for driving Hutu militiamen who later massacred hundreds of Tutsis in the western Kivu region. Investigators also say, though, that Mr. Muhaimana has hid Tutsis at risk of death and even helped others escape. His lawyer says that he's been waiting for a chance to fully explain himself for over a decade now. This is going to be the third such trial of Rwandan genocide suspects here in France, whose judicial system grants universal jurisdiction to judges prosecuting crimes against humanity.
The Chinese hypersonic missile test went around the world this summer, according to the second most senior U.S. General, John Hyden. Speaking to CBS News, the general said the missile dropped off a hypersonic glide vehicle that glided all the way back to China, adding weight to the story broken by the Financial Times last month, which described the glide vehicle's ability to travel at 5 times the speed of sound, the minimum figure to be considered hypersonic. The vehicle missed its target by around 40 kilometers, but General Hyden called this close enough to prompt U.S. concern about China's new technological capability. Behind this concern, USA Today reports that while ballistic missiles reach altitudes of 1,300 to 2,000 kilometers before descending and can be detected by radar systems, hypersonic glide vehicles keep a lower trajectory and can maneuver within the atmosphere, making them difficult to detect and destroy.
Authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo say one Congolese policeman has been killed and another wounded, with 5 Chinese working in a gold mine kidnapped by unidentified armed men on Saturday night. The attack took place in South Kivu, Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. According to Colonel David Epanga, commander of the DRC Armed Forces Regiment in Fizi, one policeman was killed and another wounded during the attack. The abducted Chinese were staff of a company that had been operating a gold mine in the area for 4 to 5 months. According to Colonel Epanga, the company had difficulty starting its operations in the area due to protests from the population, who accused it of not respecting specifications.
A devastating blow to the long-frozen egalitarian prayer space in Jerusalem's Western Wall Plaza. This as Religious Affairs Minister and Yamina Party MK Matan Kahana walking back his support for the planned compromise. Kahana on Saturday saying that the framework of the 2016 agreement needs to be studied and reworked, arguing that, quote, the vast majority of Jews in Israel are Orthodox and therefore it's not right to give control over parts of the Western Wall to streams of Judaism that don't represent the majority in Israel. Kahana's comments drawing sharp criticisms, however, not only because the deal was passed in 2016 just to be frozen by the Netanyahu government, but also because, in fact, most Jews in Israel identify as secular or traditional and not Orthodox, and the vast majority polled support the compromise.